Finally. Uh, okay. Well, hello again, Brandon, and nice to meet you. And thanks for you know uh, submitting the good idea. And
Okay.
my name is Alexey Akapian. I work for the LMC company here in St. Petersburg, and
Okay.
I also a member of program committee for Devoops conference, which is taking place third time in St. Petersburg,
Yeah.
uh, and completely devoted to the hot topics of DevOps practices, all sorts of technologies around that, best practices. And so far, it was relatively successful. I mean, we are gathering like last year, we gathered about 500 attendees for the day.
Okay.
And
Wow.
I think so. I think it's pretty much of a success.
Yeah.
Actually, this also made Jugru company to make two very interesting and very displaying decisions. First of all, this year Devoops is going to take 2 days instead of just one, and
Yeah.
also they decided to also make another DevOps conference in Moscow in spring.
Wow.
Uh, I don't know if you have heard about Jugru and in general conferences that they're making. Maybe you have heard something. But
No.
yeah, okay, I will tell you because
So
it's
so I'm actually new to Europe, so I'm not really
ah,
I don't know a lot about the conference scenes.
I see. Okay, and where are you originally from?
South Africa.
Okay,
Yeah.
good, great. Actually, very interesting. So welcome to, to another side of the globe in this case.
Yeah.
All right. So so let me maybe then speak a few moments about what Drew Grew is doing. They
Yeah.
are actually organizers of quite a few conferences held in Russia in major cities, St. Petersburg, Moscow, and since some time ago in the city of Novosibirsk in the very middle of Russia in Siberia. But there is also a very nice technical community out there. They are doing more than 12 technical conferences per year right now. So typically each other months they held something. And originally they started as organizers for technical conferences, specifically about Java. We used to have a very big Java development center here in St. Petersburg, established originally by Sun Microsystems. Later, Oracle bought Sun, and the center continued to do that. I had a pleasure to work for both companies another day. So, we had a few conferences originally devoted to JDK development, to Java as a language, etc. But later, it proved to be successful, and the folks who established Drew actually expanded their presence in almost or every major technological area. So now they're giving organizing conferences about JavaScript by the name of Holy.js. C Sharp and Microsoft development technologies, and a lot of other very interesting conferences. If you're interested, I can share with you some links
Yeah.
afterwards. But in general, for DevOps practices, as I said, the first conference was 2 years ago, and now we are welcoming more folks, and we are reaching out for more good speakers. Normally, this conference is positioned as a highly technical, where a lot of attendees come prepared, And in a way, if you have, for example, a few versions of your presentation, one is more lightweight and another is more hardcore. For our conference, always take the hardcore version.
Okay.
It will be really appreciated. People like to see live or recorded demos, code examples, configuration files, magic, especially
Fantastic.
hints and tricks which go beyond just the tutorials. So this is what our audience is actually very keen for and very, very much appreciates.
Yeah.
So can you maybe speak a little bit about yourself and about the ideas for the talk you bring?
So I was hired by a consulting company called Container Solutions. Generally, what we've primarily been handling is cloud transformation projects, they call them. But most of my day-to-day work has been around automation. Like how to get these companies into a more automated flow, because a lot of these companies are absolutely massive. I mean, they've got millions of users, but they're still doing everything the manual way. They're only now getting into Kubernetes. They're only now getting into, GitOps workflows, things like this. So my primary job so far has been to try and implement pipelines and good practices at these customers. So almost born out of this, one of the things that I've started becoming very heavily invested in and interested in is declarative, infrastructure. So this being, configure infrastructure as code, or configuration as code, I think it's called, and how the right and wrong ways to go about this. Now, one of the almost the thorns in my side is I have recently been at a couple of customers where they've been using Helm. Now, Helm in itself, I find great. I think the whole community around Helm, the package management aspect of it is amazing. But generally, what I'm finding is these companies is people are running, Helm install and that kind of leaving it at that. And they have no idea what they've installed in their cluster. They have no idea what this has done behind the scenes. I mean, I've had clients running Istio on their cluster and they don't even know they're running Istio because they've installed a Helm package that's installed Istio. So like these are things that I've tried to caution against using Helm, So there's a very good practice of using Helm charts with Helm templates, and actually like templating out the YAML that it creates, and then taking this YAML and putting it into customize. So this is kind of around where my talk is going. Is I'm trying to first explain the generative. I call it the generative approach, but it's more tightly known as the imperative approach, where you're generating these configurations at runtime and then applying them, and you never really know what the environment's like there, what can be injected in and stuff, and it's not very easy to see this. And then almost the entire opposite of this is this declarative, this is what I want, and let's just make it happen kind of approach. And this obviously lends itself heavily into this GitOps space of, what's in my Git repository is running in my cluster, and you can start implementing tools like kubediff and things like this to kind of make sure that everything's running in sync, and bring in a bit of the whole aspect of the sorry if I'm talking a lot, but it's a lot to cover. But it's like the whole aspect of this reconciliation loop that Kubernetes uses as in its internals. You kind of bring this out into your infrastructure, to your infrastructure level of having this. I'm declaring what I want, and my tool is making it happen. And then, so I kind of want to explain all of this and upsides and downsides, because every approach has pros and cons. And then I kind of move more towards this home versus customize approach. So, most people have this, it's either home or it's customized, and that's the line kind of thing. So I like to kind of I like to kind of show or explain the home approach, like what their aim in is and how to understand where they're coming from, and then the customized approach and what they're coming from. And it makes things a bit more difficult because you need to know all the resources that need to get attached, kind of thing. And then almost right at the end is where I try and bring them together, so using home and customized together, and not as seeing them as corresponding technologies, if that makes sense, or fighting technologies. You can actually package them together and use them together to kind of get this 100% declarative infrastructure, but you still get all the great packages that the community of home has supplied you. So that's kind of where I'm trying to aim this talk, because funnily enough, this is something that most of my clients seem to not get or not understand, and that they don't understand that there are other ways to use home except for home install with all of this. So that's kind of like a baseline of my talk, if to be honest.
Okay, no, it sounds good. Can I maybe ask, a few just clarifying questions?
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, I think that, at the beginning, I forgot to ask this because I need to ask this. Are you okay if we record our chat today so that my colleagues, other members of committee can just view it offline? All right. Good. Yeah. Thank you. And if I would ask you to put in maybe just 3 sentences, 3 main takeaways, the audience of your talk you will be kind of expecting they will take it after your talk with them. How would you put those 3 points?
So probably the 3 points would be okay. So point number 1, decide the way you're going, right? So in terms of it, don't go half one way, half other way. Decide GitOps, declarative, generative, whichever way you're going, decide on it, right? Number 2, the inherent upsides to a declarative infrastructure, and what the future possibilities are. And then number 3, stop this home versus customized conversation and try and get them together. So those are probably the 3 takeaways that I would like to kind of get people to go away with.
Okay, sounds good. Excellent. And what do you think will be the most amusing part of your presentation?
So probably after all the theory, because obviously there's a lot of what is this, what is that kind of thing. The amusing part would be kind of like right at the end, I want to do a demo of, pull a home chart, template it out with its variables, take this, put it into a customization, and then kind of push that into a Git repository to show that the workflow that you can have using both home and customized together. So that would be the test, the technical aspect of it, or the demo part of it. But that's like only like the end bit, and probably only is about the last 10 to 15 minutes of it, whereas majority of it will be talking on why we do it this way, because it does add extra steps. It adds extra extra steps in order to deploy something, but trying to get people to understand what value they get from adding those extra steps is kind of what I'm trying to do.
Okay, it's a good answer too. And what if someone will come, to your presentation prepared. I mean, like already having some experience with Helm charts,
Yeah.
understanding how the customization looks like, and already understanding the value. What
Okay.
people can learn from your speech in addition to what they already know.
Okay. So they already know Helm. They already know Customize. Uh, I would probably say there's always the argument, right? So they can learn how to argue. So they might agree with me, they might disagree with me. They could learn the argument for this, right? So if I find a lot of times the reason people don't do anything is because they can't explain why they should do it this way.
Mhm.
Whereas I feel one of the upsides to going to these talks is it makes you it gives you a lot more insight into why you might do something a certain way. Gives you a lot more reason or backing behind why to do it this way.
Mhm.
On the other side, if they completely disagree with me, uh, it could give them a lot of ammunition on why not to do it this way. So it's kind of like my point of view, opinion, heavily opinionated, obviously, like everything else in technology. But
Actually, and this is great because one of the best conversations in technology are going about two sides staying on a few reasonable and well justified positions, and at least from what I have in my experience, all those conversations are actually very often are going great. So I think that this is a good point.
okay, good.
So okay, and so maybe let me ask some practical question and maybe just discuss our next steps. In
Okay.
general, you look like you have a very good experience, publicly speaking already, right? So you have spoken in front of the customers in many
Yeah.
conferences, right? So,
So conferences, not so much. I've spoken at meetups. I've spoken at company knowledge sharing, upskilling things.
mhm,
Conferences. This is my first kind of toe in the water for it. So
mhm.
this year, it's kind of it's kind of my how do you say KPI, or it's something I want to do by the end of the year for myself, kind of thing, is get
Okay.
into the conference and yeah,
The personal development objective. Okay, this
yeah,
is actually great. And in this case, I think that it would be good if we go with a few, interim milestones.
yeah.
So you and myself, as I was assigned for as a curator for your speech, and others. What do you think? How you usually prepare for such talks? Do you do some draft plan? Do you do draft slide deck, which you can
Yeah.
probably prepare at some point, and once you're ready, we can gather again to see it. Do you think
100%.
that's
So
possible?
so so how I generally like preparing for things is I mean getting the slides out, because slides, once you've kind of got them on slides, you can kind of arrange your talk as per
Mhm.
the discussions. I'm specifically for this topic because I've been building some slides for a whole bunch of topics, but specifically for this topic, I should be able to finish my slides by Monday, Tuesday next week.
Oh,
Um, so, so maybe I can share those with you, and then after I've written the slides, generally what I like doing is uh, kind of talking myself through them and adding slide notes. So exactly like what should be spoken about around this topic, and I haven't actually done this as a fully prepared, speech. It's more of this is the slide, this is kind of the conversation that can be had around the slide. So let's talk about this.
okay.
so that's kind of what I wanted to do. And then obviously once I've gotten all those notes kind of out there, organized enough for a full 50 minutes presentation,
Mm-hmm.
then I do like to actually demo the talk and just kind of talk through it with some people, like my partner and
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of stuff.
Very cool. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so that's generally how I prepare. But if you have some hints or tips or tricks, or I'd be more than happy to try something out.
Well, actually, what you have in your mind is actually very, very much aligned with what we usually do as well. Absolutely. So if you can go and draft some, more detailed plan, either in the form of the deck or in the form of deck is actually always good because we can click through, we can do some dry run, and yes, absolutely. I think that it will be good if we will if you can rehearse against some of your colleagues out there and maybe do also a rehearsal with the program committee more
Yeah.
than just myself. And I think this is what usually works. So
Yeah.
if you have the time to invest in preparations, I think
Yes.
this is absolutely to me it's probably the best approach.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
Okay, in this case, I think that that was, kind of agenda for introduction. And if you have any questions, I would be happy to answer them. I'll maybe take those offline for organizers if I can't answer them right away.
Perfect. That's 100%.
So, do you have any questions?
So probably the question is after so I kind of read the notes, the conference notes that you guys have, and
Mhm.
my understanding is you guys choose the talks after the rehearsal talk, okay, that we have with the
Well,
people.
yeah, in a way, I mean, program committee continues to work. Typically, every week we are gathering, and CFP is officially open, but it will be closed probably by the end of the month, pretty soon. Uh,
Okay.
we already passed that step. So
Okay.
then I think that we will be deciding on the acceptance of the talks. My immediate feedback is that your topic is looking very interesting. I'm not making any decisions right now, but
Yeah.
it looks like what you have is what our normal attendee would look for. The some decision factors will be uh, can really be helped with if you have any more detailed plan. For example, of course, this will help.
Yeah.
We have Kubernetes is a hot topic, which
Yeah.
means
Obviously. Yeah.
probably you can't go wrong if you take Kubernetes. Um, and if you have any recording speeches you might have, you can share. This also can help with just to understand how you speak before, in front of the audience.
Yeah.
My first impression is that you should be good. You're fluently speaking. I mean, our normal audience typically is Russian speaking. We
Yes.
some of them, actually, many of them understand English, and no, but uh, sometimes you might need to, adjust your, speech tempo or something. But what I hear right now, it shouldn't be a problem.
Okay, okay. No, that's perfect. I don't really have any recordings or anything, but everything else I can kind of get together, and if need be, I can maybe look at doing a meetup beforehand so that we can and I'll can present this topic at a meetup and then record that and see.
This would be perfect. Absolutely, this would be perfect.
100%.
Yep.
Cool.
Okay. Any other questions you might have?
No, that's me for now. Thank you.
Good. In this case, let's stop now. Thank you very much. Again, I will post the recording into the Slack channel. And also, if you would have any materials, you can just drop the link into Slack as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you as well.
Have a good night.
Have a good day.
Cool.
Bye-bye.
Ciao. Bye.